Okay, well I've taken the seat off ready to strip the panels off. Now that one there's got to go. There's one of those bolts there. There's one there. Just turn that around so we can have a look on the inside. There's a couple of those ones there. One down the bottom with an Allen key. I'll get to that one. There's that one there. There's one under there. And on the inside there, there's those little black studs that are there. And you can see those in there. And around there, there's one. And that's it. Okay, there's the fuel setup. I'm going to have to take that pipe off just there, put another piece of pipe on and drain it. There's my fuel pump there, all nicely running, runs well. Okay, the air cleaner's off, the fuel tank's off, or in the other order, the fuel tank's off, the air cleaner's off. There was a little broken bolt down the side there, just there, that's off. Now all that's left is the carbies to take off. And they're, let me see if I can wriggle that. You can see they're quite loose. So I've got to investigate the rubbers, or the insulators as the book calls them. Let me see if I can get around the other side. There's the other side. They're very wriggly. I don't think they should be that wriggly, but probably need a bit of flexibility. But anyway, they're ready to go. I've just got to take the cables off that side, down there, a couple of pipes here and there, take off the choke cables, and away it goes. I'll clean it right out and make sure everything's in the right place and put it. There we go. Now we're looking down the hole where the pilot screw goes, and you can just see the rubber ring sitting in the bottom there, because when I took the pilot screw out I left the rubber ring behind. Now what I don't know is if I've got two rubber rings in there or one, which is the problem, so I'm going to have to go and have a look. Okay, now there's the pilot screw. You can see the spring and you can just see the washer on the end of it. Now that's come out of my good carby and it's left the rubber ring behind in the carby. I'll show you that if I can. Okay, now there's the rubber ring I took out. Let's go and have a look in there. Find the hole. And there you can see in there. Can I get that any larger? There we go. Now there's not a second rubber ring in there, so, or is there? What's that right down the bottom? That looks to me like an old rubber ring. And it is too. So we'll have to take that one out. What I'm taking these rubber rings out with is some tiny wire brushes that I've got in a set, different sizes, and I'll use that smallest one to get the rubber ring out that's in there. Okay, let me have a look at that rubber ring in there, down that hole if I can. I think it might be out. Now there's the pilot screw with the rubber ring on, the washer and the spring ready to put back in. Now that's a good pilot screw, there's nothing wrong with that. The tip of it's very clean and very fine, and I see no scoring on it. There appears to be a little bit of dirt in the hole, but there doesn't appear to be a second rubber ring in there, which is good. So I'll seat the other one in and hope the dirt is discoloured aluminium. Now, as you can see, that screw is fully in, the pilot screw. I've put a little bit of red goop, gasket goop actually, on there, exhaust gasket goop, and a black mark on the body of the carb. That's fully in, but not tight, just fully in. Now I can wind it out 1 3/4 turns and it should be right. There we go, it's nice and clear now. Because that screw is in quarters, I've taken it around a whole 1 turn and then 3/4 of a turn. So that's out 1 3/4 turns. If I want it to go back to a half, I just have to turn it 1 fragment to the right, 1 segment to the right. That should be okay, but I'm banking on it being 1 3/4. Now, the other thing I have to check is inside the piston sliders, there's 2 springs, one in that one and one in that one. Now I have to check that I've got the springs in the right length, in the right one. The left hand one, which is this one, it's on the left hand side of the bike, is the left hand one, and I mean the front because it points towards the front of the bike, not because it's the front carby, but it points towards the front of the bike, and it's on the left hand side, and that's where the throttle cable is. That's the front of the bike. Now it's this one here is the way I took them out. Now if it's the rear carby, just a moment, let me check. Just to confuse the issue a bit, the left hand side of the carby, the left carby, is the rear pot. Okay? Left is rear. The other side, which I've called the right side, is the front carby, front pot. Very confusing. So let's have a look and see what's in there. Okay, there's the cap off and the spring hanging out, and that looks like a really long spring. I also might mention that the needle that's in the bottom of that is also different on each side. So I've got to get the needle out as well. Okay, confusing myself here. This on the left hand side is the rear pot, and the rear pot has the long spring in it, which should be the one that's in there. The one on the other side facing the front of the bike is the front pot, and that should have the short spring in it. That's the rear pot, and it's got the short spring in it. There's the genuine rear, well, the spring out of a really good carby, and that's definitely the rear spring, and it's much longer, so I've got a mass about face. So there's the spring out of the front carby, front pot carby, the right hand side, and it's longer than the other one, and as you can see they're an arse about face. The long one should be in the rear pot. So let's put them back the right way. Now the needles are essentially the same. They're listed as different, but they are essentially the same. Because they're on a spring, there's a little bit of play there, and there needs to be, so that it goes up and down in that slide hole quite neatly. Now there's a spring behind that. Let me see if I can emphasize that. You can just see that moving up and down slightly. Okay, put that one back in with the correct spring. Now the other side's in, the front. I believe this is the rear. Yes. And just make sure that little grommet part there is lined up. And that rubber ring will press down when you carefully put the cap on. Okay, everything's back in. Springs in the right order. Pilot screw exactly correct, 1 3/4 turns. Now I've just got to put it all back together. Put the carbies back on the heads and check the insulators.
which I'm sure are a little loose, but I'll check those.
Okay, back on. There. Very nice, very tight, very airtight. The one around the other side, which is even more difficult to see. There we go, look at that. Lovely. Nice and tight, steel bands just in the right place and snicked up nice and tight. Very German, nice and tight. Okay, let's get the rest of it tightened up.
Carby on, air cleaner on, all the pipes hooked up, and you can't beat a little bit of rubber grease around those rubbery grommet things to get them into place. Screws tightened, everything is exactly where it should be now. Now this son of a bitch had better run pretty well. There we go, as you can hear it's running, popping and banging, still choke. Give it a moment to warm up, see how it settles down if it does. But there's no air leak, there's no nothing. Just cold. Could even be shit fuel, I don't know. Probably stop in a minute because it's too cold, but when it's warm that just ticks away nicely. Okay, that'll do till I get all the bodywork back on, I think. All the panels and stuff. Sitting on 1,000 revs. Not much choke, still a little bit but not much. Pilot screw 1 3/4 turns out. That's how I set it. Now I've got a 1/4 of a turn either way free play there. And there it is, stops. Choke on, start it up again, seems to be alright. That backfire and making it stop. No popping and banging. No exhaust pipe noise. Can I keep my fingers crossed and hope it goes? Let's slow it down a little bit.